I don't think we're going to be going into a period of time of competing planetary systems having wars. And I think that this is, although that is the Scientological view and it's many of the eschatologists' view, I think that actually we're going to go through a quantum transformation that's global and interplanetary that will make this quite clear in the coming years, if not months. I think that time is getting very short for how much more time we're going to have before there's this large transformation. And I think the other thing is to say, I would say to people, if there is a civilization that is here for their own purely selfish interests and have not a shred of altruism or concern for humanity or Earth, those are the beings I would want to meet with first. And I have said this for years. Because you need a diplomatic initiative to North Korea and Iran and China more than you do to Great Britain. We have to be very careful because that slips into that very quickly. That language slips into that paradigm very, very quickly.
And it could be misleading, and I appreciate that.
And I think it is misleading, but I think the other thing that it's also very dangerous. I think that I'm not at all suggesting that humans disarm. My whole message about humans empowering, not only in consciousness, but in organization and in every other way. And moreover, you said, that we need to be armed. Well, yeah, armed with what? My answer is, what I consistently say, is that there's no evidence that they are hostile and that we have to be in a armed position, in a Star Wars SDI position, and that dealing with it in that way is the last thing that we should be doing.
I agree with that.
Okay,
and so whether or not let me finish.
Wait a minute.
I cannot say that there is, you can't prove a negative. I've said this 3 or 4 times. I can go with the evidence I've seen. Moreover, I can go with the experience of 19 years of thousands of people in sea SETI expeditions and the experiences we've had with these visitors, none of which has been fearsome, negative, invasive, none of the sort. The other point that I have to make is that if it were true that there were civilizations that had self-interest and were going around the cosmos colonizing and invading different worlds or planetoids or what have you, then I would say that those are the civilizations we need to find a way to engage. And it isn't going to be down the barrel of a laser weapon or an electromagnetic pulse weapon. Sure. Let's say there is a civilization like you're describing. I mean, just,
What civilization are we describing?
The ones that you think are not in service to others.
We think they may have agendas that are not necessarily in our interest. That's not a polarized position.
Right.
Okay, but let's say that's the case.
And it doesn't mean we want to shoot them in the head either.
Okay, but let's say that's true. I don't think it is true. Maybe I'm wrong. It's possible. I mean, I don't pretend to know everything, but maybe I'm wrong. But let's say that's true. What might have instigated that? Now, let's go back 100 years. We were in horse and buggies and rifles and things. And my grandmother, born in the late 1800s, post-Reconstruction South, saw her son design the lunar module, put the first man on the moon. And now her grandson doing what I'm doing. And we've gone from horse and buggies to the capacity for interstellar travel. And anti-grav and dematerialization and trans-dimensional technologies, from gunpowder and the early stages of the Industrial Revolution. At the same time, we've gone from rifles and machine guns to thermonuclear weapons. And is it a coincidence that the sort of Pandora's box that opened when we started detonating thermonuclear weapons was because it was having an effect beyond just the Earth, transdimensionally? And is it possible that the trajectory they saw our civilization going on, these ones that you think may not have our best interests in heart, may have seen us going on a trajectory that, if it continued on that trajectory, would lead to us going into their neighborhood with weapons of mass destruction, with our unchecked simian tendency towards war making and what have you. And so I'm trying to say, let's look at this for just a moment through another perspective that's non-human, if we can. It's very difficult because we are human.
That.
In other words, and therefore, what kind of provisions and things are going on as a consequence of that? And so I always say, everyone starts getting into, this alien agenda and that alien agenda, and I would say, what would be more constructive is that the human agenda be fixed.
Yeah.
That we learn to live on this planet and
No disagreement there.
fix our own home, create a peaceful civilization, rather than worrying about other motives from other civilizations. And here's what I predict. I predict that if we were to do that and learn to live together without clubbing each other over the head and killing each other on this planet, and is so below, so above, that we would see a change perhaps in the cosmic order for that reason. So rather than engaging in debates and speculation about the agenda, perhaps harmful aliens and this and that, I would say, why don't we create a civilization of abundance and of peace and of enlightenment here, and go into space with that intent and see what the response to the cosmos will be then. Well, it may be the response that we're getting now is a directly proportional response, karmically and otherwise, to what we have been doing to each other.
We are attracting
in the last 100 years, we have killed 160 million of our own fellow humans. And I think that if you reflect on that, and I was seeing an interview with Robert McNamara towards the end of his life, where he was reflecting on the terrible mistakes he made in Vietnam and the other wars of the 20th century. And what I think is that there needs to be a sort of, let's look at ourselves. And obviously, I just don't see the evidence for that. I do see the evidence for humans killing each other. I do see weapons in space where we have targeted these visitors.
I appreciate that.
And all of that. So, I mean, we can talk in circles all day on this.
Sure.
My position is that there has not been an action against the Earth and humanity from an extraterrestrial, interstellar, physical civilization to here that I think would cause us to want to have a sort of armed conflict response.